Hi everyone, it's Tammy with Shabby Fabrics. I have the funnest project for you guys today. We found the Tabletop Tannenbaum Pattern by Christine Poor. This is with Poorhouse Designs. Thank you to Christine for allowing me to shoot a video talking about her amazing pattern and her fun projects. This is the Tabletop Tannenbaum trees. I love this project. You make your trees and you're using a specific batting with this. This is by Bosal, and this is a moldable batting. It's activated by heat. And I want to open a pack and show you this batting. It's very soft. It's wonderful. So nice to work with. It's beautiful to quilt with and to play with. But when you apply heat and steam to it, it gets rigid like it is in this tree right here. And your project stands up, becomes a 3D thing. So I want to show you how I made these trees. First of all, when I started this, the first thing you do is you're going to take your pattern from off of the back of her pattern. You're going to take your templates off of here, you're going to place it on a fold and make your tree patterns. When you buy our kit, we have done a template for you, and you'll receive this template so that you're just simply going to line them up on the lines, tape it together, and then you've got 2 trees and 2 tree skirt wedges right here. That it's just going to make it a little bit easier for you. Then you're just going to cut them out like I have done here. Okay? And this is how we begin. You're going to lay these on fat quarters, cut out your trees, and then you're going to lay them on the batting and cut them out. So I am going to skip that part because Christine does all of this in her pattern with color photography on exactly how to do it. Her instructions are very good. I just want to show you the fun part. I want to give you some tips and tricks on quilting and how to do that, free motion quilting. I know that a lot of you are nervous to quilt free motion, or a lot of you just haven't tried it yet. I think everyone should try it. It's a great fun. It's fun to embellish projects that way. I really love to do it. So I want to show you a little bit closer here on this tree. This is another collection that we have. This is the Splendid collection, but on this one it had birds in it and poinsettias. So I want to show you, and you can see how I did the white or the green on the pine branches, and then I did the red on the birds. Isn't that fun? And then we did the poinsettias on this one, and I just quilted around the poinsettia flowers. It was a lot of fun to play with this collection and just do some fun free motion quilting on it. The collection that I'm using today is called Merry and Bright by Moda. And I have made some trees ahead of time, but I am going to show you what your trees look like. We'll set these aside for now. So this is my tree after I have gotten it layered on my batting, and I have layered 2 trees right sides together on top of my batting, and I've cut it out. Now I'm going to trim this. You need to trim your batting close to your stitching. So I want to show you a trick I learned doing this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut into my corners on all my corners here. And I'm going to do this before I trim my seam. I find it easier to clip if my seam is wider. I don't know if that makes sense or not. It kind of makes a mess in the end because you have all these little pieces everywhere, but to me it makes sense to do it this way. So now this is where I stopped and started right here. I'm going to cut straight up to this stitching. I'm not going to cut my stitching, but I'm going to cut through all my layers right up to that. You can see how I cut up all my layers right there. So now I'm going to start cutting. Now I'm going to trim this. So first I'm going to take my corner off like this, and now I'm just going to cut close to my stitching right there. Okay? Now I'm going to pick my fabric out of the way, and I'm just going to trim my batting. I'm going to leave my fabric long right here where my opening is at the bottom. So I'm just going to trim my batting away like this. There we go. I trim about 1/4 inch of my batting away. And then I'm just going to continue all around the project. We're just going to go ahead and cut this out. I like these little Kai scissors. They work so well for getting in tight corners like this. They're very sharp. I have nicked myself with these. I'm going to try to be careful here and not do that again. Here we go. So I'm just going to trim all these edges away, trimming to about 1/8 of an inch. Now the thing when using heat moldable batting, one thing you're not going to want to do is use a heat, an iron on this project at all until the very end when the tree is completely built. Only then do we put a heat or steam or an iron on it, and that makes the batting rigid and it shrinks it. It shrinks it up about 30%. There's a lot of uses for this batting, and I think this is just very clever. What a fun decoration to do. I think this would be great to do with kids. I've got grandkids that I'm sure would just love to do a project like this. Okay, we're about around this thing. All right, there we go. All right. I'm going to set this guy out of the way a little. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this right side out. Here we go. There we go. Work it through that hole a little bit. There we go. So I love this Clover point-to-point turner. It's point on one side. It's got the flat spatula on the other. I love this tool for any time I'm doing a turn project. This is the tool I reach for. Okay, so let's put it inside and we are going to start up. We're going to get this turned here. Now normally when I do a project like this, I'm going to use an iron, and I'm going to take my iron, I'm going to take a project to an ironing board, and I'm actually going to press it because I want my seams to come out right. I want this point to be pointed. You can't do that with this project. This is a finger press only project until you get it completely built. So just remember that. All right, we're going to get these points in here. You see how quickly this point-to-point turner makes this project. It just pokes all my little branches out here. Got a couple more at the bottom. There we go. We'll do one more. There we go. All right. So now I would naturally iron this, but don't do that. No iron yet. All right. We're just going to finger press it. I think it looks great. Perfect. All right, so now let's deal with this part right here. So as before, I just trimmed my batting, and actually I'm going to trim a little bit more batting away here. It's still a little bit in my way. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to fold the top piece right here over my batting, kind of like just tuck it under there, just like that. Okay. And now I'm going to just bring this behind, right in, just like that, so they're perfectly even. See that? I'm going to hang on to that, and I'm going to use a Clover Wonder Clip. I like these small Wonder Clips for small projects like this when I'm coming in close on a project. All right. We'll put one here, and then I'm going to put one on this side and just kind of hold all this together. Again, it's hard to resist that urge to go to that ironing board, I'll tell you, because I normally press all this first. Okay, that's how we want it to look. Now I'm going to go to the sewing machine and we are going to stitch around this. We're just going to start stitching here and come all the way around and top stitch it. Then we'll be ready to do some fun quilting in the middle. Okay, so to top stitch this, I just want to sew an 1/8 of an inch, about an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance all the way around this. So I am going to start right here at the bottom. And I have green thread on the top and red thread on the bottom. Here we go. All right, so we've sewn all the way around all of our trees. Now we're ready to have fun. So I want to talk to you a little bit about free motion quilting. I use 50 weight cotton thread on the top and the bobbin. I make them match in weight. So I'm going to use a red thread on the bottom and a green thread on the top, or a red thread on top and a green thread on the bottom. I like to use, because this is thicker, I like to use these Schmetz Jeans denim needles. It's a little bit heavier needle, but these chrome needles are so nice, and I don't break needles when I'm doing free motion quilting, and I use these needles. Sometimes if I use too small of a needle and you get going too fast and you catch that needle's gonna snap. These needles I have a lot better luck with. So this is a chrome professional grade needle by Schmetz. Okay, that's what I'm going to use. There's also a couple of different feet. Most sewing machines come with a foot that looks like this. It's called a hopping foot, it's called a quilting foot, it can be called an embroidery foot, it's a free motion foot, and it's kind of odd looking, and it just has a little round hole in it right here. Okay, this one, you are going to control the speed on this one. You're going to control the speed and match that with your movement. All right, so I'm going to quilt with this on the green one. This is the Bernina Stitch Regulator. This is a really fun toy to play with. It comes with the Bernina 770 QE Quilters Edition and other models. I'm not quite sure what all models this foot comes with, but you should definitely see your local Bernina dealer, and they will give you a demonstration of this foot, let you play with this foot if you don't have one currently. This is a lot of fun. This has a little window right here on the bottom of the foot, and it's sensing the movement of the fabric. And then the machine sews faster or slower depending on how fast you're moving the fabric, and that's how it regulates the stitches. So this foot is a lot of fun, and we're going to sew the red one with this foot. First though, I'm going to show you with the regular foot on this machine. All right. Okay, so you can see how I dropped the feed dogs down. That's going to allow the feed dogs to be dropped out of the way, so now I have free range to move this freely on top. All right. So what I'm going to do, another thing I like to do when I do free motion quilting, I'm going to get my thread down through here so it doesn't get wound around. Another thing I like to do is I like to set my speed slower. So I'm going to turn my speed down on this machine, and then I take my foot pedal and I'm going to put my foot pedal all the way down to the floor, because you don't want to have to think about how fast am I going and regulating your speed as well as moving and watching the foot. There's just a lot going on. So take one of those things out of the equation. So I take the speed out of the equation just by turning my machine slower and I'm just going to floor this machine. I'm just going to go, and then I'm just going to show you how this works. All right, so I'm going to make a couple little stitches, and I'm just going to tie my thread off. Let me adjust my tension down a little bit. You're going to want to play on some fabric to see where your tension should be. On this machine, I need to bring my tension all the way down to 3. It was up at 5.5. So I want to bring my tension down because I have a different color thread. I have red in the bobbin and green in the top, and I don't want that red to come through. Okay, so I'm going to take a couple stitches like this just to lock it. And now I'm just going to go. So my foot's going to go all the way down to the floor, and I'm just going to do some little loop-de-loops around here. Okay, here we go. So when you're quilting like this, I'm watching where I'm going. I'm trying not to watch my needle, but I'm trying to find a path so that I don't cross over myself. I don't want to cross, and I don't want to walk myself into a corner where I can't get out. So I'm going to go out to a corner and loop back in, down around. But I don't want to get into a corner where I can't get back out of. So it's kind of like driving. I always liken it to driving. You're driving along, you don't watch the road straight in front of you, but you're watching the road down the road a little bit, right? You're not watching straight in front of your car. It's kind of like quilting. So I'm watching ahead of my needle, and I'm just coming around. Now remember that we're going to take that heat batting and we're going to put steam on this, and it's going to shrink up about 30%. You are not going to see all of your stitches on here, all right? So this is just time to play. Whoop, we're almost, yep, I crossed over, didn't I? Look at that. I was talking and I was not looking where I was going. Okay, so I am regulating how big the stitches are by how fast I'm going and how fast I'm moving this. More up here. Okay, sometimes it's easier if your machine's going faster. I'm going to turn my speed up just a little bit here. Woohoo! We're cruising now. Don't get your fingers. Watch your hands. But it's just up to you what you do. You can do a stipple stitch. I like this little loop-de-loop stitch because it's easy. I don't really have to think about the stitch at all. I'm just cruising around. I'm trying to keep my loops nice and even. Trying not to cross over anywhere. But it's fun. Put on some good music, have a good time. That's what I like to do when I play in my quilt room and just quilt like this. Just relax, have fun. All right, so you see I just sewed back and forth. That's how I'm just going to tie it off there and cut our thread. Okay, now let's put the Bernina stitch regulator on. So for this I need to change out my machine and then my thread because I'm going to sew red on the top and green on the bottom. So I'm going to change my thread out on my machine, and I will see you back over there with this Bernina stitch regulator hooked up. Okay, so when we're starting with the Bernina stitch regulator, we're just going to take a couple little stitches here. All right, now that's just going to tie our thread off. So I'm just going to try to do some back and forth stitches and kind of walk around our lettering a little bit on this, all right? So I'm just going to be moving this back and forth and up and down, all right? So the machine is going to regulate the stitches, so I don't have to think about that. I just need to keep moving my fabric in a smooth manner, all right? This takes a little bit of practice, so don't think it's not going to be perfect. As you can see, the faster I go, you see that? The faster I go, the faster the stitches go. You go really fast. This machine, this is really fun to play with. Whoop, it doesn't like that if you go too fast. It says, no, you're going too fast, slow down. Has a built-in sensor there. It'll only go so fast. All right, there we go. All right, here we go. So now we have all of our trees are ready to go. I've done the others ahead of time. So we have all of our trees ready to put together, and then we get to play with the iron, which I'm going to turn that on right now so it's good and hot and steaming when I get there. Okay, so to put our trees together, I'm going to stack 2 trees and stack 2 trees, and I'm just trying to make sure I have red to green, green to red, like that. Okay, now I'm going to draw a line with a friction pen right down the middle of these trees. That's where I'm going to sew. That's going to be a sewing line. So I'm just going to take from this top straight down to the bottom. Mark it with a friction. Let's do the same on this one. Now I'm going to take this to my machine and stitch it. Now I believe most machines should have no problem sewing through 2 thicknesses of this. The Bernina sews right through this. I don't have a problem with this on my machine for this step. Okay, so let's take this to the machine. Again, I have red thread in the bobbin and green thread on the top, and I'm just going to do a straight stitch. I'm going to start a little bit down, back up, and come forward. Rather than trying to start right on this tip, sometimes that my machine does not like that. So I'm going to come onto this machine or onto the tree about an inch, start sewing, then back up and come forward, and it seems to do it better. I don't know why. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to take a couple stitches like this, and then I'm going to back up to the corner. So I'm just going to put it in reverse and go back up to the top. Just walk up there slowly. Okay, now I'm going to, and then it'll just come right back down. For some reason that just works easier. And make sure my trees are together as I stitch down here. Okay, we'll do the next one as well. Okay, now I'm going to sandwich my fifth tree. He's going to go in the very middle. So we're going to turn him over like this. He goes in the middle. Now, this is really thick. My Bernina will go through this. A lot of machines will not. And Christine says in her pattern to hand stitch this together if you need to, rather than destroying a machine. But my machine does do this. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this on the Bernina. All right, we're back. We have our tree sewn all the way down the center. All my layers are together. Now we get to do the fun part, which I know you've all been waiting for to see how this works. So I'm going to take my iron and I have it on steam. Ah, yeah, there we go. We get our steam going. And I'm going to hold my steam away from this when I first do it, because you want to just be careful and not put your steam right next to this immediately. You need to see how much it's going to shrink and how powerful your steam is, because if you have a little bit of steam like I do, I'm going to have to get a little bit closer. But if your steam iron really steams out, then you're going to want to stay away from this project just until you can understand how much it's going to shrink. All right, so let's give it a go here. I'm just going to start steaming this. You see how it's starting to crinkle up right here? Now it's starting to shrink up my batting. Okay, I'm going to go to the other side of the tree. Some heat on that. Look at that. I'll set that down for a second so I can show you how this is stiffening up. You see that? How it stands right up? Where before they're loose and floppy and they wouldn't stand up. Okay, so I'm just going to keep on going through this, and I'm just going to keep folding these back kind of like pages. I'm just kind of creasing them in the center. I'm just going to take my iron and use my steam and the heat and go right along. I'm just going to kind of mold it to what I want it to do. I want them to stand up. Just going to keep on going here. Do the back of this one. Oh, I think that looks really cool on the letters there, where it just quilted all around that. That looks so cool. Let's give this a little bit more here. All right, there we go. We did all of our little branches. Let's see how that looks. Oh, that is so cool. You see how it stands up just perfectly now. I love that. Isn't that fun? What a fun project. So now we can make a tree skirt to go under it, and that's going to be a base, and then you would just hand stitch this to the base, and then you have a tabletop decoration. So let's set our tree aside and let's look at our base here. So remember back I had wedges, and so we're cutting wedges. I've cut my wedges. I'll lay this out here so you can see what I've done. I cut my wedges and sewed them together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then I pressed my seams open, and then I just laid it on here. I marked an opening right here so I can sew from here all the way around, and then I'm going to turn it right side out, and again I'm going to trim my edges, fold this in, and then top stitch it, and then I'm just going to quilt a little bit on it. All right, and then we're going to do the steam on it again, and then it'll shrink it up and we can attach that to our base, to our tree, and we're good to go. All right, so I'm going to go to the machine and do that, and when I come back, we'll be ready to do the steam. Okay? All right, so here I am back, and I have completely finished my little tree skirt. How cute is this? On the back, I just did some basic quilting, just straight line quilting. I just chose to do that. You guys can do as much quilting or as little quilting as you want. Just remember that when you shrink the batting, the fabric doesn't shrink, so it's just kind of get ripply. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what happens when we do that. Ha! This is the fun part. Let me tell you, this is fun. My husband thought this was very cool. He really had a good time. He didn't really understand what I was making when I was explaining it to him. And then he saw what I was doing. He thought that was pretty cool. Oh, that is fun. Look at that. Just shrinks right up. That is so cool. I love this project. All right, and there's my tree skirt. It's completely done. So now I'm going to take my tree, and I'm just going to attach this. I'm going to use a large needle, and I'm just going to attach this by hand and just stitch it on there, and I have a new decoration for my house. So I hope you've enjoyed making the Tabletop Tannenbaum. I hope you'll try this project. Thank you again to Christine Poorhouse Designs for letting us show this and do a video on her amazing projects. We'll see you next time.